let me know if you can't hear me. I'll try and project. So we have the Bluebook exam. It starts on the 7th. You'll have 14 days until the 21st to do it. It'll be uploaded on Twin, and there's no time limit like for the memo portion. So you'll have as much time as you want, or as little time as you want to spend on it. Spend some time on it, but don't kill yourself. So we also have above the line and below the line. What that means is later on I'll show you, but when you're editing an article, there's the footnotes, which are considered below the line, and then there's the text of the body of the article, which is considered above the line. Above the line changes are really grammatical changes, punctuation, and spelling. And so we allow the Chicago Manual of Style or the Red Book for the above line portion of that. So if you have either one, you can use that. When you're taking the test, you just need to make sure that when you make your correction and note the correction, you let us know which one you're using, because there are some differences between the two. There are also rules that the Bluebook will that overlap with the Chicago Manual of Style and the Red Book, and so if there's a discrepancy, you want to use the Bluebook rule. So Bluebook, everybody have a Bluebook? I think it's still the 19th edition. So here it is. If you've seen it, there's the blue pages, the white pages, and the tables. This is all, I'm just going to try and go through this because I assume most of you know all this. I think for your legal writing, you use mostly the blue pages, is that correct? And so for journals, it's going to be the white pages that you're focusing on, the white pages and the tables. And there's lots of useful information. There's the back. Everybody uses the back. It gives you all of the chapters and a little bit about what they are. And so if you have a problem and you want to know where it is, just use the back. There's the table of contents in the front. No one really uses that. And then there's the index in the back if you want like pin sites. You want to know where it says pin site specifically, where that's what you want to use that for. Just going through the list of what's in the Bluebook, everything up until Rule 10 is all about the details, order of parentheticals, typeface, short citation forms. These are all actually really important. These are the kind of rules that are going to get you the points on the exam, because we're going to mess up stuff like typeface, we're going to mess up stuff like short citations, we're going to mess up quotations, and so those are the little rules that you might think are not important, but they really are. Abbreviations, capitalizations, all of that. So the beginning chapters are really important. There's a lot of really minute things in there that you want to make sure that you understand. Getting into the bigger sections, you've got cases, Rule 10. You actually don't use Rule 10 that much. There's really, the only difference is that the case name is not italicized. And I mean, there are other things, but that's the main one between the white pages and the blue pages. So for legal documents, you italicize the case name, and for footnotes in journals, you don't. Other than that, it's all pretty much the same. Constitutions, statutes, legislative materials, it's all just listed right there in order. Books, reports, non-periodic materials. This is a big one. You'll use Rule 15 a lot, so make sure you know that. Rule 16 is also a good one because that's the legal journals. Lots of these sources are coming from legal journals. And we'll get to Table 13, which is important. That has to do with legal journals. Foreign materials, international materials, foreign jurisdictions, that does not come up often, although I did see, I believe one of our class wrote an article for their law review paper, which actually used English case law. And so in that case, they would have used Table 2 for foreign jurisdictions. I didn't look into it, but I heard that it happened. Rule 18 is going to confuse you, and it still confuses all of us. Rule 18 is internet electronic citations. There are a million sources, and they're all different. And how do you cite one internet source? Is it a blog? Is it just a post on a blog? Rule 18 has all of the rules, and honestly it boils down to, is it understandable to the reader? That's the main part. If a rule doesn't specifically cover what you're dealing with, make sure that it's understandable to the reader. Somebody is able to find it. And so there are rules, but there's a lot of discrepancies and leniency between how we're citing stuff. So just try and be consistent, and you'll look at Rule 18 a Table 1, the United States jurisdictions. It has all of the jurisdictions in the U.S., what their preferences are, how you're supposed to cite for them. It doesn't come up too much, but it can be specific based on what you're trying to do. Table 6 you will use all the time. Table 6 is about abbreviations. Luckily you didn't have Allwood, which has more abbreviations than the Bluebook does. We did that last year, but that's what you're going to be using to see if a word needs to be abbreviated. There's also a little sub-rule that says that if it's not on the list, but it's still understandable, you can abbreviate it. So, again, whatever is understandable to the reader. Table 7 is court names. Double check that the name of the court is being placed correctly. Table 13 is periodicals. This is a really good one because lots of law review journals, lots of peer-reviewed periodicals are all listed in Table 13. They're abbreviations. It's all small caps, and the words are all abbreviated, usually based on Table 6. If you find a journal or a source that is not on the list, you simply follow the typeface conventions, the small caps, and abbreviate the words. So it's not an exhaustive list, but it's a pretty good one. You'll use that a lot. Table 16, subdivisions. That doesn't come up too often. It just has to do with the subdivisions on specific sources. So if you want to say the preface or the preamble, it has abbreviations based on what you're trying to say. So here, this is what you're getting into. When you find a source, this is what you're actually going to be doing on the ground. You identify the source first, so you have a citation in front of you. Well, what is it? Is it a book? Is it a law review journal? Is it an unpublished paper by a student? Is it an internet source? Where did you find it? Is it written on paper somewhere? Is it physical? Is it electronic only? Can you get it online? How does it identify itself? Does it call itself a report even though it's a blog entry? These are the things you have to identify. And again, or for the first time, don't trust the author when you see this. Just because this is given to you by a professor or given to you by the #1 cited authority in the field you're talking about. A lot of times they are so important that this is not important to them, and so they will just write it down and it will be up to you to correct it because they are dealing with things far above this. So some things that you need to understand is that the Bluebook, you want to read the rules. A lot of the associates, they'll just look at the example and they say, oh, I'll just copy the example that's done in the Bluebook. But there are specific parts to the rule that are nuances that change the examples. And so you're going to want to make sure that if you go to Rule 15.3, you're reading the whole rule. You're not just going to the start of Rule 15 and saying, oh, it shows an example of how to do a book. I'm just going to copy that, because that's not always correct. That's the general average citation. And this next part is the really important part, especially for the exam. You want to explain why you did what you did. And so when you're doing the Bluebook exam and you're making a correction, you're not just going to say, you're not going to make the correction and then put a comment that says, oh, I changed this because of Rule 15. You're going to say, no, I changed the author's name because Rule 15.1 says that author's names need to be in small caps for books. You're going to explain what you're doing. You're not just going to make the change and then cite to a rule. Explain why you did what you did. This will allow all of the input editors who are correcting you to realize, oh, okay, I see where you're going with this. There's a misconception here, and then they'll be able to explain it to you later. Other things, these are kind of just rules that you need to know. Underlining is not used anywhere. If it's underlined, it's wrong. So just so you know that. Short form citations are different from most sources. Rule 15.8 has all the little things that you might not know how to cite. Again, it's just read the rules. The rules are big categories and there are sub-rules underneath that deal with each situation. Blue text in the Bluebook typically denotes a connection to another rule. So under Rule 15.1, it's going to say, do this except in this case, reference Rule 16.3. These are examples that you'll see, and so you need to follow that. It'll say, cite according to, and it'll give you a rule that's linked. Well, not linked, but it would be linked if it was an electronic document. And so you need to go from the rule you're looking at to the rule it's referencing to realize how this is actually supposed to be done. It's something to keep in mind, and it'll trip up a lot of people. They'll say, oh, I did it with 15, but no, 15 said do it according to 16. When you didn't go to 16, and 16 had some changes. The insides of the front and the back, I know I just got through telling you not to use examples, but the front and the back have examples. And they have standard examples, and once you get kind of into it, and once you've had a little more experience, it's actually really useful. Because some of the nuances, they'll stick in your mind. They'll say, oh, I got this wrong because I didn't realize that it was 2 instead of 1. And once you know the little nuances, the major stuff, if you just need a reference on how to do it, that's the front and the back. So that's actually really good. There's a house rule. The Idaho Law Review prefers an en dash to a hyphen. This is just a house rule, but it's something that we do. So if you see them hyphen something, do an en dash. That's not in words, but it's for subdivisions, page spans. If they say from page 19 to page 22, it's an en dash or a hyphen. Just a house rule. Here are some sources. I can leave this up if anybody wants to write them down real quick or type them. It gives you some practice, and really it'll just be practice for the exam, because once you get in and start doing it, it's all just practice. I mean, you'll have lots and lots of practice with it. Okay, so here's a little interactive, fun stuff. Here is a citation to a case, and would anybody like to throw out what might be wrong or what might need to be changed? Their side, if you can't read, their side. So we'll just go here.
There shouldn't be a comma between the 204 and the 9th Circuit, and then it looks like the comma is italicized.
Those are good, yep.
You know what italicized the title, or the casing?
You were paying attention, yes, that's correct.
NLRB could be, the NLRB is an abbreviation.
Mm-hmm.
No, TH with 9 should be full-sized, as well as circuit should have 9.
Both good. Anybody else?
There's a space between F and the second and the fourth.
Jeez.
Okay, so great. I mean, you guys are pretty on the ball. So this is how it's supposed to be cited. I don't think anybody said abbreviation, but I think there were some hands up that I didn't get to. So this would be a citation that you might see on the exam, not this one specifically, but something like this. This is what it would be corrected to. And I think I counted there are about 16 points in this one citation. Abbreviation, change national to NAT, to board, and that's based on Rule 10.22. Abbreviate any word listed on Table 6. You'll use Table 6 a lot. Change italicized case name to Roman type. 2 points. Because, I'm sorry, if I didn't explain before, you get 1 point for the correct change. You get 1 point for citing the correct rule, and points are deducted for making an incorrect change. So you want to make sure that you make the correct change. You want to make sure that you're citing, explaining the correct rule that you're using. And if you're not sure, it's probably better just to leave it alone, because then you won't get any points taken up. 9th to 9th, part of the citation, you don't use superscript. Change circuit to circuit. Yep, all good. Change that. Cite 12-bit reporter. I mean, you got pretty much all of them. Very good. And this one you couldn't possibly have known because it was the wrong volume number, but you want to make sure that you're checking the volume numbers. You don't want to take that. You can't trust the author on that. It could have just been a slip of the finger, 457 to 477. It's 2 points you could have gotten, or 1 point. They give an extra credit point. There are a lot of things that are not stated in the Bluebook. Just little things that are wrong. You know they're wrong, but if there isn't a specific rule for it, you can say something like inferred from a combination of these 2 rules. These 2 rules say you do A and B. With A and B, it's natural that C follows. These are just a couple of short form citations. They're just examples. You see that it was, for a book, it's Rule 15. Rule 15 says that they should be small capped, so it's changed to be small caps for the author and the title. You see that the numbers was changed. It's another house rule that if it's 3 or more digits, we change it to 2 digits at the end, and that's an N dash, not a dash, for page spans. Supras, it's rule 4.2. You want to know supras and infras very well. It comes up all the time. There are certain things that you cannot supra to, and there are many things that you can. And so short form citations, if it's not an id, it's going to be a supra in most cases. Internet citation, it's going to be Rule 18. You're all going to be confused. It's really hard to get through, but it happens all the time. The internet is everywhere now. And here's an example of what it's going to look like. You've got the author name, you've got the title of the article. The CBS Money Watch is the main title page in small caps. The date that it was posted, if there's no posted date, then you have to put the date that you last visited. And each time you pull up that article to edit again, you have to change the last visited to that current date. And so there's a bunch of rules in 18.2.2 is what it's going to be. So here are some questions to ask while you're editing anything. Human author, institutional author, copyright date, time, online only source, date it was last visited, format. There's just all this stuff. So here are some I'm just going to go through these, but they're just examples of what you're going to find in the Bluebook and what you're going to find on your exam. It's going to be different types of sources that you're going to have to come up with the rules for, and the rules are all listed. Newspaper articles come up all the time. There is a difference between online newspapers and newspapers that are in print, and we'll have specific house rules on how to do some of those because we want to keep it consistent, and when one group is editing the other groups work and they use a different rule, and there are variations in the rule, we'll let you know which one to use. But just for right now, just do what the Bluebook says, whether or not it tells you to do things that are wrong. And again, these are just from just different citations that you can find. So here's another interactive bit. There are 3 problems with this. If anybody would like to take a look and see if they can find the problems. And it's about medium length, but you'll get many more citations that are much larger than this.
It's like towards the end of an author's name in small caps.
Oh, an author's name in small caps? Which one? The very last one?
Just or is that for?
Right, no, so that's a section in the R. Kelly edition. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but that one is new. That one's not incorrect.
There's a semicolon issue on the 3rd line. Yeah, it shouldn't be a colon, it should be a semicolon.
Yes, correct. It's 2 more.
4th line, there's a space after the parentheses.
4th line, the 1860?
Yep.
Yes.
Is that the proper order they keep going to? Like Connecticut keeps going to Connecticut reporter rather than the...
Right. This last one is really, really difficult, and I'd be really surprised if anybody catches this one. Let's give it a couple more. I don't think nobody got this one last year.
I don't think
Okay.
they've done this
Did you get
before.
the Indiana one? Oh, were you not there?
Oh, I was there, but I was just going to say I don't think they've done anything like this before, so I would
Probably
be
not.
surprised if anyone got this.
Okay, so we've got the colon, which should be a semicolon. Yes, we have the extra space. This case is out of order, alphabetically. That's a rule. Nobody would get that, but that is a rule in Bluebook. The order of the cases based on alphabetical geographic location. So there are little things just that you need to be aware of, and it's all throughout the Bluebook. Procedural phrases, id, you'd be surprised how many people mess up id. There are a couple of different rules on when you can use it, when it needs to be capitalized, when it needs to be italicized, hint, hint, always. And prior subsequent histories and explanatory phrases. Those are all things that you need. Oh, introductory signals. This is a big one, actually. Rule 1.2. 1.3 is the order of introductory signal, or introductory signals. There are minute things in there that you'll need to know. And so that's the end of the slideshow. Now I was going to show you, for anybody who doesn't know how to use track changes, we're requiring track changes. And so this is actually, there we go. So this is actually the article that I am editing right now. My editing session, I guess actually technically ended at 3:30, but you don't end until you're done. So I'm in the middle of editing this. There are 2 other people editing this right now, both from my group. The orange is what I've changed. So now if track changes, if you've never used track changes before, if you bring up your Word, it's all in the review portion. And you can turn track changes on and off. I have it up here in this table, or in this bar, but you can just turn it on under review, track changes on, track changes off. And so what the difference is that with track changes off, it's just going to delete, and you won't see what's going on. However, if you turn track changes on, when you delete something, it's going to show you what you've changed. And so for the exam, you're going to be given a Word document, a number of pages. I'm not quite sure how many pages it is. This particular article, I think, was 18 pages, but you'll get anywhere from 3, 4, 5, I think probably 4. And so what you're going to want to do is you're going to have footnotes just like this. You're going to see what's going on, and so I've just gone through and edited some of these things. This was a double space. I like to turn on the what are those called? Paragraph, show hide paragraph marks. And then, so I can see double spaces are not okay, and they're hard to see. These sources needed a here and after because there are multiple sources by the same author. And so you need a here and after, otherwise when you're superating to an article, you're going to have the same author's last name. And so it's confusing to the reader. So you add a here and after. In this case, we just use the article or part of the article's name. These were dashes and spaces that I changed to M dashes per CMS something. Yeah. And so that's what you're going to do. You're going to get a footnote. You're going to go through the footnote. You're going to say what's wrong with it. When you find something that's wrong, in this case they had the full article title, they had the author name and the title, and then they super it, and then you correct the super number. But because we did the here and after just to the title, so now we take out the author's name. So now it's C generally, the name of the article, super note. And I moved that footnote. So when you make your comments, you can't do a comment below the line. Comments have to be done above the line. So what you're going to want to do is on footnote 48, you simply go up to the footnote, and you can highlight it or just right-click near it, add new comment. So it's going to bring you over, and you're going to say, I changed something because of something. And don't look at my comments because I've done this for a while. And so after a while, you're allowed to get away with, I made changes due to 15.1 and 15.2. But for this exam, you need to know exactly why you made the change. You're going to need to know what rule you're looking at and why you made the change you made. And so that's really it. Here you can see that these are a number of changes I have to make. See, this was originally an id. However, id cannot be used to apply towards a site that has multiple sources in it. And so I had to change that. By being lazy, I cut and pasted the entire thing in there. And then as I moved on, I realized that it's full sites going to full sites, in which case they all needed to be supras. And that's why there are a number of changes from full sites to supras. So, I mean, this is the type of work you're going to have to do. Here, they have the full site, but it didn't require a full site. It needed to supra back to the original full site. And so this is what you're going through. And you'll have a couple of pages. This is a journal. that didn't need an issue number, so I took the issue number out. This was a capitalized abbreviation, which was wrong according to table 6 for abbreviations. And these are the kinds of things you're going to need to do. You're going to need to see when this one's correct, but a lot of times you'll see italicized comma after CEG, and that's just not the case. It's a comma between C that's italicized and an unitalicized comma afterwards. And so those are track changes.
Can I jump in really quick? So when you make a comment on the footnote above the line, because you're editing the footnote below the line, you'll usually be making many changes to one footnote, but you can only use one comment. So number your changes. So like number 1, I abbreviated this word per this rule. Number 2, I italicized this per this rule. Does that make sense?
Correction number 1, capitalized the state name. Correction number 2, changed author's name to small caps per rule 15.1. And so those are, let's see if there's anything else I can see here. And so, I mean, this is what you do. This one was changed. They modified the number with the in dash and changed it to 2 instead of 1. And you just work your way down. You start with the very first footnote. You see what looks wrong, what looks right, what needs to be changed, find the rule, cite the rule, and you're done.
Can you show them how to find an end dash really quick? Does
Oh,
everyone know where to find an end dash?
Yeah, you can.
It's not on your keyboard.
Yeah, you can insert symbol. I think that's.
I usually go to more symbols. I'm not sure it's usually there.
I hotkeyed it, so you can also hotkey stuff. Shortcut key.
I think it's
But-
under special characters, and then it's like this first
Yeah,
one.
and it'll tell you what to do. So I did control space, so in Word, so I can just hit control space. I also did a shortcut for the section symbol on statutes because you use that all the time, and it's really a pain. I think I did control Z, just something that's close by so you can make it go faster. Does anyone have any questions at this point? Anybody have questions about the exam or track changes or?
How do you use small caps?
Small caps. So you can find small caps under font. Small caps. So if you want to change, this name, if this was a book and the author needed to be in small caps, you can just change that. I did the opposite of what I wanted to do. Changed it to small caps. Did I miss a hand? Nope, hand went up, hand went down.
You talk about a lot of in-house rules. You guys have like a.
Yeah, there's a list of house rules, and none of them are really pertinent to the exam except for the in-dash, and I don't think we told you about the number spacing, but we can put that on Twin. That's no
Yeah, we can put it on Twin. But let's say for the exam, all you need to do is the end dash.
Yeah.
And when you're citing a rule for it, just say per house rule.
Yeah, you can just do per house rule and dash instead of dash.
Just because it's something you'll use all the time, and it's just better to get in the habit now.
Anybody else? Questions? Okay, Corey, have anything?
We have some informational packets here for anybody who wants some information on the kit. We'll also be having a meeting next week. We'll let you guys know by email about that. So.
Right. If you have any technical questions about how to do something, feel free to email me. I can't give you substantive help on the Bluebook, but if you have computer problems or I can't tell you like where and what something is, but if you need to know anything about this, I'd be happy to help you.
Some of the in-house rules that you talked about earlier, are those going to be placed on paper so that we know?
Yeah, we'll upload them on Twin, but for the exam, don't worry about anything except the end dash for page spans.
So with the exam, once you start it, do you actually have to like finish it and submit it, or will it just get sent to you on the last day?
No, you'll have to submit it.
Okay.
Yeah.
There'll be a Twin.
Yeah, there'll be a Twin.
There'll be a Dropbox, like how you all submit your other assignments. So we'll have a Dropbox. And like he said, once you open it up, you have the full 2 weeks to do it. It's not like the memo where you have a time period.
This isn't a time, so you can make as many corrections as you want. You can spend as much time as you want, but really don't kill yourself.
Just to mention, when you submit, if you're writing onto both journals, you'll submit one to law review and one to the crit. They're separate Twin pages that you'll submit your Bluebook exam to for the crit. But it's the same exam.
It
Same
is the
exam,
same.
just two
Yeah, the
cards.
Bluebook exam is the same.
The Bluebook exam is the same, the actual writing portion of the exam will be different as we require different things. Or we look for different things.
All right, thanks for coming.